Okay, here we go. All right, so welcome everyone. My name is John Spriggins, General Manager of South Dallas Cultural Center, and you are um, watching another edition of In the Studio. This is our series where we have conversations with artists who are making work in the contemporary art world. We're having conversations with different artists from different backgrounds um, and in different media. And today we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Rosie Lee, aka Marcelo Pope. He is a Texas native, born and raised Dallas-Fort Worth, Dallas-Fort Worth area, Fort Worth specifically.
Fort Worth. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I still
but
represent Oak
yeah, he
Cliff.
says still represent Oak Cliff, but he is a Fort Worth native, and but has lived in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for
Yeah,
much of his life and done work here, and is currently living in Grand Rapids, Michigan
yeah, yeah.
at the moment. He just recently completed his MFA, and you got a MFA, and you got two degrees, correct?
Yeah. At the same time, I had an MFA in painting and then an MA in visual critical studies.
Gotcha, gotcha. And from the what the it is the school
It's Kendall College of Art and
Kendall College.
Design.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what
Mhm.
because I looked it up yesterday.
Yeah.
So Kendall College of Art and Design.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so today we'll just have a conversation with him about where he is, where he's learning a little bit more about his work, and take a look at some of the work that he's been doing, while pursuing his degree or his degrees. Um,
Yeah.
so welcome, Rosie Lee, Mr. Pope. How
Right.
you doing, sir?
Man, I'm good. I'm good.
You have I understand you have a new addition in the world.
I do. So you might catch something in the background, you know.
Yeah,
You might catch a loud noise in the background here. You know what I mean? He's always fighting his sleep. I'm
that's
probably
all
the
right.
one. He didn't fall asleep last night until I don't know 2 in the morning. Man, he was just kind of coming and going. He had a couple of shots,
Gotcha.
vaccine shots. So
Oh
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Those are never
Might be a
fun,
little-
man.
Yeah, yeah. So
Never fun for the little fella, little Ellington Pope,
Bill Ellis,
man.
that's
Yeah,
right.
fantastic, man. So glad for you. Happy for you. Congratulations on that,
Yeah, appreciate it.
for sure, for sure. Well, I want to dive into you and your work, man. For for those who don't know you, if you could give us a little bit of background, in terms of like where you from. We said Fort Worth,
Yeah.
but kind of like how did you how did you begin your venture into being a visual artist?
Yeah, so like most kids, I had just a natural knack and talent, I think, for drawing. I knew it about fourth grade. You know, you had the little clay, and I
Hmm.
molded this big head. And I think mine just looked better than everybody else's, not just being arrogant, but it was one of those things where my classmates was like, "Oh, you on a different level." But I
Hmm.
didn't really pay much attention to it because I think, it, you know, given my family's background, they're workers, so art and focusing on art is kind of something that is like a hobby, not necessarily a profession. So I never really truly focused on it. Even when I got to college, I still walked around with a sketchbook, went to the art building with my best friend who was in the art program. So I'm checking things out, and even then, it still never really like hit me until 2008, and I was living in Richmond, VA, and I'm actually living downtown, like lofts, and the building that I'm living in is connected to like 2 or 3 art galleries. So I never really could get away from art. I'm painting at this point in time, and it was just an epiphany because at the time I had the nice car, I had a beautiful woman on my arm, living in a ideal like location. So I had all these things on the checklist, and I really wasn't fulfilled. But the one thing that brought me true joy was painting, you know, was art. So at that moment in time, like I said, I just had an epiphany. I began to kind of look back on my life and was like, you know, if living in your purpose is your goal, what does that look like?
Mm.
And, you know, I was like, I got to use this gift that I have, you know, this gift of creativity. And at that point in time, I knew that 2008 was it. It was like, no, holding me back. You know what I mean? So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah. So what drew you to painting? I mean, there's a vast amount of media that
Yeah.
you could work with. You know, you even mentioned like earlier, you know, playing with clay and having some success with that. But,
Yeah.
and even, you know, keeping your sketch pad and drawing, but you know, you're a painter.
Yeah.
And so, you know, where's
Yeah.
the draw there?
I know that within painting, although I'm very tactile naturally, but within painting, one of my strengths is color.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that the sensories that really get my, you know, me going and energized is when I can walk into the studio and just smell paint.
Mhm.
You know, it's like smelling some good barbecue. you, you you know what I mean? Like when you drive and then somebody is grilling, you know that smell. You know, it's like, man, it brings back so many memories. And so for me, painting was the idea that the materiality of it, that I could make it thick, buttery, you know, I could water it down and almost make it translucent as if it was watercolor. So there were so many things that I could do with paint. And the initial idea was, you know, I'm still using my drawing ability, right? So I'm drawing onto the canvas. So that drawing aspect is still there. And then I can, you know, build from there with the paint and sculpt a composition, even if I wanted to with paint, you know? So all those elements that I really enjoyed as a child, as a young adult, painting was just kind of it. I was like the main medium. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as someone who dabbled in painting myself a bit, um,
Yeah.
attempting to master the medium itself,
Mm-hmm.
and understand the
Yeah.
possibilities of what you can do with it, from the viscosity of an oil to the innate transparency of a watercolor to the speed with which an acrylic will dry on you is just
Yeah.
understanding things. And hold on. But back to the question around the medium. I want to jump
Mm-hmm.
in and take a look at a couple of pieces of yours, and just kind of get you to talk a little bit about your work, and your thought process. Let me see if I can share which screen. Yeah. So can you see that?
Oh yeah. This is one of my favorite pieces.
Gotcha. So this is a part of a group of work on your website that you title Social and Cultural. And I think this is the work that, if I correct me if I'm wrong, this is your graduate work, correct?
Yeah. This is one of the kind of one of the first major pieces that I did that I was like, oh, I'm moving in the right direction.
Right.
You know, you kind of trying to feel it out when you get to grad school, you know, what am I supposed to be painting and all this. But when I did this piece, I knew instantly, like, oh, I'm moving in the right direction right now.
Right. I think I wanted to start here because this is the work that really intrigues me the most. And so if you could just kind of give us a little insight into, what this body of work is about.
Yeah, I mean, this is a direct response to the Trump administration, you know, build that wall.
Mhm.
Uh, the attack on immigrants. Um,
Mhm.
and so for me, I wanted to challenge people to look at the work that they do, the importance of um, their labor to our well-being, you know, our quality of life as Americans. And then also I wanted to show a diversity of immigrants. I think that people assume that it's just uh, brown-skinned people who are Mexican, right, that work in the fields. So I wanted to show a diversity of people who work in different fields,
Mhm.
um, who are not labeled as professionals, but you know, have a certain type of work ethic that a professional would have. So I wanted to just show, you know, these different activities, you know, whether it was dealing with produce, groceries, construction, domestic type of work. Um, you know, you can see in the gentleman that has the purple hands that his face is red, that he's been in the sun. You see the one whose face is actually covered in a red type of masking or scarf, whose face is a little bit darker. Um, and excuse me, I wanted to show movement. I wanted it to be very colorful, very vivid, and just an array, just a spectrum,
Mhm.
you know, of activities taking place. Um, and with that, I think it tells, you know, different narratives.
Right.
And you know, the background meaning, I didn't know what the wall was going to look like, but I thought of something that was very cold, dark, and so I painted that background gray. I painted the uh, you know, the ground itself that they're standing on, you know, green to represent some type of land. Um, and so, yeah, walls and borders. I think the title just kind of really sums up um, the messaging in the work itself. So,
Yeah, I think the thing that is really interesting to me from a just kind of a structural compositional aspect of it is the simplicity that
mhm.
is, you know, in the simplicity and the representation. You know, I think about like, you know, cutouts,
Yeah,
you know, simple shapes and forms that come together to create, you know, the figures. Um, they're somewhat crude in their shape and form, but it's intentional. Like it's not. This isn't a lack of skill. This is an approach to a style. You know, an approach to um, a development of and vision for what you want your images to look like. The style that you're working through developing, you know, while you're creating this body of work. And it's really that simplicity to me is refreshing, you know, because
yeah,
it's not a simplicity just for simplicity's sake, but it's intentional, you
very
know.
much.
So with all the art, you know, and you and I talked about this, all the art that's out there that goes so far in terms of like in your face kind of
Mhm,
um,
mhm.
hyper realism, you know, large scale, you know, lots and lots of movement. This piece is like quiet. This work is quiet, and that
Right.
simplicity provides, you know, an opportunity to contemplate what you're seeing, and not just be in awe of the skill that the artist has. If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
No, very much so. I mean, I think it's an excellent read. For me, I try to make simplicity profound, and I think that's a very difficult challenge to do. Um, and especially with the way and the style in which I paint, it's like, how do you add depth to this flatness? So if we look at this compositionally, you have a figure who is kneeling over that is basically the center point of the painting.
Mhm.
And he creates that balance. But if you look at the different figures, looking in the direction that they're moving in based off of the way that their heads are facing, it creates depth.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing that's curious to me is, and I'm not lost on it, is the this halo around the figures. You know, the decision to leave that space between colors in different spots and locations, and it reminds me of like Wayne Thiebaud and his halo that he
Mhm.
would paint around, you know, cakes and pies and people. Um,
Yeah,
you know, that line added an extra um, point of interest
yeah,
in the composition. And so and it may even help to show, let me click through
okay.
and show how that, you know, continues in some of the other work like this one, which was one of my, you know, favorites of yours. When I first saw it, I was like, wow, all
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
you know, I get it. Um, but you continue that through, you know, part of the body of work that, you know, we're looking at, and I think it's a great stylistic
mhm,
element to what you do. Um, but to me, it shows a level of sophistication, you know, about where your visual lexicon, you know, your
yeah,
visual language, because you could absolutely go in and like, let's fill in every area and every form, and
exactly.
that's the case in some of the other pieces like the portraits
Mhm.
that we'll look at. But with these, I think that the choice to leave those spaces um, raises the level of, you know, sophistication in the work, you know, so that
Yeah,
flatness doesn't just, it's not just about the flatness, you know, that no, this is intentional, this is on purpose, this isn't
right,
just somebody who doesn't know how to paint,
right,
you know, because
right.
it could be easily misconstrued by for someone who doesn't understand, you know, what your ability, your level, your skill is.
Yeah, I call it wisdom in the brush. You
Mhm.
know, and the only way that you really get, you know, that wisdom in the brush is being able to understand the materials, uh, the amount of pressure that it takes, you know, the idea of what you how you can construct and deconstruct a piece of artwork.
Mhm.
And you know, sometimes you gotta let the paint dry, knowing when to walk away, knowing when something is what we consider to be complete, right? Um, and yeah, you're totally right. It also kind of piggybacking on what you're saying, it's also the accessibility. You know, I want kids to be able to um, come up to my paintings and understand them.
Mhm.
I want for adults to be able to explain them
Mhm.
because it's layered,
Yeah.
right? So the kids are going to just simply maybe see shapes and colors,
Right.
but the content, the messaging, adults may be able to see on a different level because of their perspective, because of their experiences and backgrounds in certain types of areas.
Sure.
Um, so yes, it's also the accessibility, you
Yeah.
know.
I
So
think.
all of it is intentional, and you know, that's the point that I want to make is that um, how can I make simplicity profound, and how can I also make it sophisticated and complex and
Right.
layered?
Right.
You know, simple with the basics. That's just
Right.
the idea: color, shapes,
Right.
basic.
Right.
How do you make basics complex?
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So tell us about public school complex.
Public school complex was an amazing painting. Um, it got me on the news.
Mm.
It was a lot of controversy around the painting. And I'll just make this cliff note. Someone took a picture of the painting. It was posted on social media. I had it up in a student-led gallery at the school, and the gallery was not actually open at that point in time. And it just goes to show you the power of art. So this individual took a picture, posted it, kind of like, can you guys believe this? And they posted the address of the gallery, and it was the wrong address. It was the address of the building that was adjacent to the gallery, which was the actual probation office for the city. So
wow.
there's a flood of comments. Yeah, there's a flood of comments that are coming in from everybody in the community. And that's to say people in the city began to call the school. And people in the administration began to call me. And the next thing you know, I'm in the news for this piece. But you know, public school complex really speaks to systemic racism, the you know, school to prison pipeline, speaks to our education system. It speaks to the division and separation of education that's still taking place based off of economics. This was a painting that I based off of a photo that I got off of the internet, and it's not an actual I guess classroom photo. It was something that you know, the kids were models. But I even thought, like, man, the messaging in this, you know, to allow your kid to take part in this experiment, and what kind of conversations you would have to have with your child, you know, when they're able to see that photo come to life. You know, myself, I grew up in two worlds, in the sense that I grew up in the suburbs, predominantly white, elementary school, where I can count the number of Black students that were there. So that was half of my time was spent in the suburbs, and then the other half was spent in the hood. You know, it's where my grandmother had her business. It's where we went to church. You know, so I was able to see, I guess, for lack of better terms, both sides of the track. And so I kind of wanted to speak to that as well. I use fluorescent orange. You know, there's the show Orange is the New Black. And so I wanted this painting to pop. You know, when you come into the gallery space, I wanted this to scream. You know, I wanted it to scream in its silence, you know, with these kids smiling, these Black children smiling on their faces as if their fate and their destiny is already, you know, made for them, you know. So
well, yeah, and
yeah, I mean,
yeah, and I think that is suggested through the, you know, the prison uniforms, but I think it's also those smiles are not they're genuine, but they don't necessarily tell the full story, because these kids are unaware of
very
what
much
their
so.
fate is. Like they're in it. They're already, their fate is decided, but they don't have those smiles don't suggest that they even know or are aware of what their fate is. And I think that's the most profound thing to me about it, because you can juxtapose them. You know, they're sitting on the front row. You know, it's clearly that all these are Black kids and everybody else is not. But it's those smiles that get me, you know, in conversation with those uniforms, because these look like anybody's kids, anybody's Black children, you know. And this is, you know, this screams statistics, you know. You know, what's going on, or what's happening statistically. So I think you accomplished exactly what you set out to do, is scream, you know, scream it loudly, and say it loudly to your audience. And if someone doesn't get this, I don't know
what's wrong with them.
What's going on? They got this Stevie Wonder syndrome or something. I don't know. Maybe. But
and so I wanted 2 points. The idea, and I don't know if this is the case in other countries, but the idea that you would even have a jail, detention, prison uniform for a child.
Mm. Mm.
Let that sink in. Secondly, when it comes to school pictures, we dressed up for school pictures. You see the little girl has a bow in her hair,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so it's that whole idea, like, this is what you're getting dressed up to become.
Right.
Because this is who I think that you are. This is who you are. So you're getting dressed up to become this. So,
right.
Yeah.
Man. Let me see if there's, I want to jump forward to, I wanted to jump over to, I think it's not, is it colors? No, it's not this one. It's
Form, go to form.
form. Yeah.
Yeah.
This series, I was going back through it this morning. And I've literally this morning just developed a new level of appreciation for what you are, what I think you're attempting to do here. But talk to us about this. There's a statement on there, but I don't want to, I don't want to read it verbatim. I just, this particular body of work focuses on architecture.
Yes.
And, but it's specific architecture. And so kind of walk us through and tell us where, and we'll flip through the images, but
Okay.
tell us about this.
Yeah, so this particular series I was developing for my thesis exhibition. It was deeply rooted in the research that I was doing for my degree in visual and critical studies, which was on This is America. And I began to research racialized surveillance, which began to take me from, that's overseer plantation to over policing. Okay, white flight. Begin to do research on the Great Migration, and what I really hit on and hit home for me was redlining.
Yeah.
I was connecting redlining to the gentrification that has taken place in Oak Cliff.
Okay.
So what I begin to do is think about not only the Black figure, but how does the Black figure move throughout space, and specifically the spaces that they feel comfortable in, the spaces that are private, the spaces that they call home, the spaces that they fellowship in, have community, or congregate, eat. And I just began to think of marginalized communities. And also with that, and kind of knowing a little bit of background of different areas in Oak Cliff. I lived in Bishop, and that area has of course transformed. Probably we're on this fourth iteration of what the community kind of looks like. But the point was we constantly hear there needs to be economic development in the Black community. And when we look at Tulsa 1920s, right, we know that we have a perfect example of what a thriving Black community looked like. So our Black communities economically have been destroyed, whether it is through highways, whether it is through bombing, whether it is through redlining, those type of things. So I wanted to specifically look at different communities throughout our country where Black people have thrived, Black people have struggled, and really reflect in color and in architecture places that we call home, places that are our communities. And this Detroit Black Bottoms is perfect. Living in the Midwest, when you go to Detroit has a certain look to it. People move a certain way in Detroit. There's a certain color to Detroit. I can look at house hunters and know, based off of the bricks of the homes, that it's either Houston or Dallas. But I know that specifically that it's Texas. If there's limestone, then that's probably Austin. So there's certain bricks that are used in Chicago. There's certain siding that's used in the Midwest and in Detroit. And I wanted to capture that. I wanted to capture those colors of Detroit and how that is contrasting to maybe the homes in Little Haiti, you know, or New Orleans, you know, where your homes can be painted fuchsia, you know, pink, you know, periwinkle.
Right.
You know, it's accepted. It's very colorful, you know. So I just wanted to make those connections on, you know, excuse me, with my research, and then also with the portraits that I had been doing. So it was just kind of an expansion. This series was an expansion, and done in a similar, you know, style and fashion that I have done, you know, my portraits. You know, it's flat, it's colorful, it's vivid. You know, if this building could talk, you know, if it could represent a person, you know, that would, you know, it would be somebody named, you know, Jamal. Jamal lives here, you know what I mean? Jamal mom's, you know, she cooks etouffee, gumbo. This is what it smells like. This is what it sounds like in the neighborhood, you know? I wanted to bring all of that to the campus.
Yeah, I think what's striking to me is your use of color, the simplicity of shape, the arrangement of the structures in space. You know, they
Very much
seem
so.
grounded and at the same time floating. You know, which give them this almost kind of ethereal um,
Yep.
feeling. But they're you
Mm-hmm.
know they're grounded in their architecture. They
Mm-hmm.
definitely suggest the location, even just the molding around the front porch is very, you know, New Orleans, very specific, and I think it was smart to you know highlight that, you know, in a way to suggest, you know, where this, you know, this comes from. But it almost kind of looks like frosting that's dripping across the front of the house,
Yeah.
you know, but frosting that is perfectly formed, like somebody um, is making you know, a gingerbread house of some sort.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
not to detract from it, but that the decisions that you're making, you know, color wise, spatial arrangement, um, you know, how you create, you know, you suggest the depth of field, um,
Mm-hmm.
and the flatness at the same time, and that those two things fighting against each other um, help create a what I think are, you know, this is like probably one of the favorites of them, you know, in terms of like compositionally, colors, choices, um, you know, everything about it. But I just think the series is really strong,
Mm-hmm.
um, in that you're, like you said, continuing your that very simplistic approach
Yeah.
to, you know, design, to composition, um,
Right.
and you still carrying forward those same elements that you had in other works we just looked at, uh, but you had a different sensibility because the subject matter changed.
Very much so. You know, and it's kind of led by the research, my own personal observation, you know, of some of these buildings and spaces, because I want someone to look at it and go, I know exactly where that is. That reminds me of my aunt's house, and be able to fill in those spaces. But at the same time, once again, accessibility, that it's a house. You know, it's a house in a certain type of area. You
Mhm.
know, and so allow those individuals who may not be from those areas to still kind of fill in those spaces. It
Right.
makes the neighborhood approachable. It makes it seen in a way that it can be valued in the same way that you value your home in the upscale neighborhood. You know, there's grandmothers, there's people who work hard who value their homes in low income, marginalized areas and take
Well,
pride in their
yeah,
home. And many of these homes were built by African Americans. You know what I mean? Like definitely in Fort Worth, you know, there's homes that were built by our people. And so we're living in those homes, and there's so many generations and stories and narratives that can be told. You know, everyone knows, if you're from Dallas and Fort Worth, you know a church that looks like that.
Oh, for sure.
Somewhere in the hood, you know, you know that it's Ebenezer Baptist, some Pilgrim Rest on it. You know, everybody knows that church.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one right off of I-30 coming to Fort Worth, just past downtown, sitting up on the hill, like that reddish,
exactly,
reddish orange brick, sitting up kind of to the right on the hill. I don't know the name of the church, but I remember seeing it all the times I go back and forth to work, and it's got that steeple on the top.
Exactly right, man. That's exactly right. So.
No, and I think it suggests, you know, or at least alludes to community and not the actual people. And I think that, again, that's the other thing that is really interesting about your work, that in contrast to all the stuff that, you know, I look at on a daily basis, all the art that I scroll through and look at on Instagram and go to websites and things like that and try to see what else is doing, is like this is a departure from that, and it's a departure that I appreciate, because it's addressing things that are still relevant to what's going on, but don't necessarily dive into that representation that I'm seeing mostly of the black skin, the black face, the black figure. You know, these are suggestions, and it requires more thought. You know, it requires more thought, because if you're looking at this image and you identify it as being, you know, a place of worship, wherever it is, it begs the question, why? What about this?
Right.
Who goes here?
Right.
You know, where is it located?
Exactly.
You know, we know what it's for, or at least we presume. Does it still exist? You know, is this based on an actual location, or is this just a general concept and idea around a house of worship? You know,
right.
So there's all these
and
other
also,
things.
It's very true. It's very true. And I just wanted to also point out, I'm definitely influenced by abstract expressionism. You know, I'm sitting there looking at this Joseph Albert's piece. And I wanted to also, for people who have that type of background, that, you know, that background in understanding that genre of painting, to be able to see a modern masterpiece beyond just the figure itself. You know, if I change some of the lines and it was more organic, I think it still could exist simply as an abstract painting. Will it be as profound? I'm not sure, but I think that it does a double duty. At least that's what I would like for it to do.
Yeah. No, I think you know, you hit it out the park with this, you know, this body of work. I like where it's going. I think it's definitely something that you should continue to explore. You know, whether you, you know, you may have decided to, you know, to terminate the series or whatever, but I think there's more of this to dig into.
Yeah, I agree.
Know, me personally, I just, you know, but I really appreciate and enjoy these. They're quiet, contemplative, and I love the reference you said to Joseph Albers, because that's what he was doing, is you know, as a minimalist artist, exploring color theory. You know,
it's exactly what it is.
Exploring color theory, and so you're doing that. You just take it a step further and have a focus. You have a specific thing that you're making the subject matter, but you're still exploring color theory, and I think it works.
Right.
Well, I'm going to jump over to one other body of work. I think, is it Lines and Colors? you know, this group of work.
Hmm.
So I'm jumping straight on into my favorite because these 1, 2, 3, and 4 are really I
Yeah,
think fantastic, pieces that
yeah,
where this is where you're diving into like uh, cultural iconography, things
exactly.
that are specific to Black culture, um, and again that simplicity. Um, you building these kind of almost like a grid, of
That's
sorts.
exactly what it is. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. It's a grid.
So talk
It
to us
definitely.
about this.
Yeah, you hit, you hit it when you said a grid. I look at it as a grid. I try to fill that grid in with symbols, iconography that we relate to. You
Hmm.
know, everybody knows about the corner store. In the South, or if you're in the East Coast, it's the bodega.
Hmm.
Same idea.
Right.
There's certain type of imagery when you walk up. There's ads, billboards, all those things that are trying to market to you.
Hmm.
Um, it has a certain type of smell when you go in. There's just certain things that you can get at the corner store, that you may not be able to get at your local grocery store, right? And especially if you grew up near a corner store or a bodega as a kid, those are those things that you would I get the pickle. I got to get my certain type of ice cream. There's just so many memories that are attached to that.
Hmm.
And what I wanted to show with this particular piece was different generations. Corner store is oftentimes a place where you run into someone, or a place where people go to have conversations and pick up their lottery tickets.
Hmm.
So I wanted this young child to kind of see, you know, different generations just kind of talking, and it's just a snapshot. It's just simply a snapshot of what's going on in the hood, or in the community.
Right.
Um, and take racially charged images and celebrate them. That's kind of my focus has been to celebrate and to add value to the things that others have tried to belittle
Hmm.
and dehumanize in us as Black people. And I'm trying to reclaim that in a way that it's approachable. Almost on that line of being controversial in a sense, because there's so much history that is attached to uh, large lips, you know, minstrel-like type of figures, and as far as the gesturing is concerned. But I wanted to take it in a different direction, and so I think that's what this piece here definitely is really conveying.
Yeah, I think it's the suggestion of the things without it being, so specific, and that the way you've laid it out, almost like, pieces to a puzzle, um,
Hmm.
things that all of this stuff fits together. It definitely points to or alludes to. And then I love the just this canopy that's over the top here,
Hmm.
that kind of encompasses, and to me protects those things. It
Hmm.
becomes this kind of protection for all that you are representing, rather than just a covering for to get you out of the storm, but
Right.
a covering that is saying that all the stuff that happens underneath here are things that we need to value, we need to protect, we need to revere.
Hmm.
So I think that whether that's your intention or not, is just that's what it kind of suggests to me. Is like these things, fit under this umbrella. This isn't just a suggestion of a location, but it's a suggestion that these things are valuable. You know, all of them in some way or another. I'll jump over to one more.
Okay.
This is probably my favorite of all the stuff that you've done. Um, I have several that I really, really enjoy in each given group of series. But
Right.
this one is quite fun to me because it takes me, back to my own um, experience. You know,
Yeah.
the going to the barbershop as a young man is, a rite of passage in the
That's
Black
exactly it.
community. You know,
Yep.
so but the way you suggested those things, um, without necessarily, alluding to the people, but it's the place again, and
Hmm.
then the spatial arrangement, no real background. It's just all of these things that kind of neatly arranged across the composition. Um, some things bumping into others, things, uh, oh, some stuff overlapping, some stuff has
Hmm.
space around it. Um, but it's organized noise, you know.
That's exactly
Um,
what it is.
yeah,
And oftentimes the barbershop is just that.
yeah,
It
yeah.
is organized noise. But I once again the senses, I want people to hear those clippers. I want you to smell that, the oils that are being used, the spray, uh, the sounds, the jokes, the laughter that's taking place, or even the serious conversations.
Mhm.
I think that when I uh, was writing my thesis, I told the committee that I'm not writing for people who are scholars. I'm writing for the people who are at the barbershop
Mhm.
because we theorize. There's philosophy that takes place, that the philosophies that are shared in the barbershop. There's critical analysis that takes place in the barbershop. We don't sit around and say, hey, you want to make an analysis on the debate last night
Right.
that took place. But it happens,
It
and it
does.
happens naturally and organically. And the barbershop is where uh, a homeless person may get their hair cut for free, in the same place that a big time lawyer comes in or a celebrity comes in to get their hair cut as well.
Hmm.
So pretty much all are welcomed. So you have
Commerce
so many
happens.
different commerce happens. It's an institution.
Hmm.
I've seen kids read books while they're getting their hair cut. Then tell me what other place kids are looking forward to reading books, you know,
Yeah.
outside of school. So those little bitty things, it's an institution. It's an institution that will always be around because we always want to look fly. And so I just want to, this is true. We always want to look fly. And so I just wanted to capture those moments. Like you said it best, it's a rites of passage.
Yeah.
Definitely is a rites of passage. And this is one of the more popular pieces that I definitely created to date. People of all backgrounds respond to this, you know. Even if they can't relate, they definitely respond to it.
Right. No, I think, look, I think your time in graduate school was well spent. You know, you definitely,
Yeah,
I mean, besides obviously getting the degree, I think the most important point, and we talked about this as you were getting ready
yeah,
to go, it's
yeah,
like going up there and doing you and creating something and developing something that, that is uniquely yours, that is representative of where, your voice is. Um, and I think you've accomplished that. I think between the bodies of work, and we obviously didn't have enough time to go through everything, but you all can
right.
definitely go out to Marcelo's website, which is rosielee.art.com. ROSIELEART.com. There's
Yeah,
two E's, Lee. go out to his website and you can definitely check out, more of his work. I know you got plans to, continue to make work and do other things. What are a couple of things you got lined up, coming in the coming year?
Next year I have a couple of residencies that are lined up. We'll see, based off of COVID, but I just talked to a curator friend of mine who's nominating me for a residency here in Michigan. I have a residency in LA, Otis College, and also with Golden. And then I'm just going to be, grinding, adding more drawings, hopefully doing more murals here soon, and just working. I'm trying to live in my purpose and just work on the passion, and that's it. And just sharing. It's, like I said, for me, it's celebrating Black culture, valuing Black culture, informing others about Black culture, and giving back to Black culture. That's it. Yeah. That's all I want to do. So that's my focus for next year. If I can do those things, then I'm leaving behind a legacy.
Well, man, one of the things I like to do as a final question to the conversation is I like to end with the same question, which is if you were giving a piece of advice to your younger self, if you were to sit down with Marcelo, before Marcelo became Rosie Lee, and say, hey, sit down here, son, let me talk to you. What would that piece of advice be?
It's a couple of things. I'll try to keep it quick. I think Jeff Van Gundy, the basketball commentator and coach, said it best. Don't take advice from someone you wouldn't take criticism from. So that would be the first. Second thing is, I feel like if you don't live your dream, you live in somebody else's dream. And that typically, the alternative is that it won't fulfill you. At best, it will sustain you. And, hopefully you can move beyond complacency, right? Mm-hmm. So live your dream, walk in your purpose. That's what I would tell myself, and don't make any excuses, because it's worth it.
Right.
Because it's worth it. If at the end of the day you can say, I like what I do and I do what I like, that means that you can have freedom and happiness. And what more can you ask for?
All right. Fantastic. Well, again, we thank you, sir, for taking the time out of your day to spend some time with us and share your art and your thoughts and your experiences. We look forward to seeing what else you have, coming in the way of your art, and obviously wish you the very, very best in your career, and in life in general. Please say hello to the missus, give her a hug, tell her I say, hang in there with this dude, hang in there with this brother, tell her, y'all gonna ride together. That's together. Right. But and give little Ellington some dap for me, because I know one day I'm gonna get a chance to meet the young brother.
And, I gotta take you to the center, man. That's where I grew up, man. I grew up in the center.
Yeah.
So
So we gotta definitely connect when we get an opportunity, man. But until then, be safe. Cool. And best wishes on all your endeavors, sir.
I appreciate it.